We would like to take a closer look at two contrasting ways to add something to the end of a list. Remember that the append method will add an item to the end of a list, and the concatenation operator will allow us to add two lists together. What we'd like to do is see how those two techniques are similar and how they are very different. So, for example, if I have a list that consists of simply some integers, let's say, and I ask that list to perform its append method. So I want to append the value 999 to my list. We can see that my list now has 5 items where it had 4 previous, and 999 is the new final item. So what we've done is to ask the list to add a new item as its last item. Now, we could have accomplished the same task by using concatenation. So for example, if I start over, my list is the list consisting of 1, 3, 2, and 5. What I could have done is to say my list concatenate with the list containing 999. Now we have to be very careful here. If I simply wrote my list plus 999, I would have a data type mismatch because I would have a list being added to an integer, and those two data types cannot be added together. But as long as 999 is in a list, then what I have is the concatenation of two lists, and the result is going to be all of the items, and you can see that I end up with the same answer that I had before. But there's a very important difference. Whereas in the previous case, my list was changed, in this case, with the concatenation operator, my list is still what it was before. The concatenation operator takes two lists and produces a new list, whereas the append method modified the existing list. So how could I change the value of my list using concatenation? And of course the answer is I would have to use an assignment statement. I would like the new value of my list to be a reference to the old value of my list concatenated with the list containing 999. If I do that, when the assignment statement executes, the new value of my list will now be the list that I want. So the assignment statement, together with the concatenation operator, provides me with the result of the new list. But now I have to be very careful. If I were to go back again and start with my list as 1, 3, 2, and 5, I know that the append method will add an item to the end of the list. But if I'm not thinking about this clearly, I might make the following mistake. My list is a reference to the result of my list append the value 999. In other words, what I've done is to combine the two ideas together. I've used the append method, but I'm trying to combine it with the assignment statement from the previous example with concatenation. If I do this, I end up with a big problem because my list now has nothing in it. In fact, it's not even a list. There is no value. Let's explain what happened. Remember that when I have a list and I perform the append method is a mutation of the list. And so my list.append 999, when I perform that method, nothing is returned. Nothing shows up in the Python shell as the result of executing that method. And yet, the result is that the list has been modified. But when I use that right-hand side append with an assignment statement, the assignment statement says, let the left-hand side refer to the result returned from the right-hand side. Well, if the append method doesn't return anything, then my list will now be a reference to nothing, or in fact, it's actually a reference to the value none in Python. So it's very important to realize that if you want to add something to the end of a list, you have two choices. You can either append it, or you can concatenate it using the assignment statement. But you must be very careful to make sure that you don't confuse the two and use an assignment statement with append, because append does not return anything. Append simply mutates the list.